And we're live, I think.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another political recap. My name is Shrups LP, and with me, as always, is our lovely sexual swagness leader, Omegon. Say hello, Omegon.
I have a new drink today.
Oh, really? Is it that tea that somebody made for
No,
you?
no. You let us, yeah. No, my brother-in-law is, and my sister and their children are staying over this weekend. He got a bottle of the new Jack Daniel's Apple, which is like 35%. It's better than the Apple Jack, because that's more like an apple sour. This is like, it's in the area of Tennessee Honey and Tennessee Fire. It's basically that, but apple instead. It smells smells fantastic. Definitely a sipping drink, though, I will say. Shooting it, a bit redundant. But I'm fine. Bit warm. Got a lot done this week. Actually, I've almost filled up my notebook. I have one page left, but the page was reserved to finish off the Andy Warski video. Before I then have to decide between the notebooks that are in my drawer that I've been sent by people, which one is next. It's a tough decision to make. Yes. Otherwise, I'm fine. Yeah. How about yourself?
Okay, that's great.
Would you like?
Yes. What were you originally thinking about that tea video? Because I know there's a joke about it.
I knew it was a joke. Yoletta sent it. She admitted to have been drunk. That Crispo on my server had actually told her to do it, and I knew it was a joke. I think it's fantastic though, because I finally have a tea wench, and because others have said they'll send videos, and I'm like, you know what? This could bring back something I used to do on the channel, on the main channel. For those who are long-time subscribers, you'll know this. I used to have sandwich wenches, and that was, yeah, I enjoyed having that.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It was a while, yeah. I think the last one I received was 2018, and only in that year I got 6. So, and as I'd gone full-time content creation, yeah, that's not. But maybe once a week, a tea wench, that could work. That could be really amusing. And it triggers the chat.
I'm tempted to make a, one of my hottie toddies, as it were, for you.
I just like this idea of you making a cup of tea, and then just slightly to the side are 3 white lines and a razor blade.
Yes. If I do it, I'll make sure to leave plenty of subliminal messaging for you.
Please do. Leave your hookah in display, because I need something to masturbate to later.
Yes. Of course.
But it was a good video, I thought. Do you want to share with the class what's happened with you this week?
Oh. Okay.
Before you do that, preemptively, everyone, just press F. Just press F. You'll understand why in a moment.
Okay. Yeah. So, Dick, by the way. So I went to work this morning, and I had received a phone call before I got into work from our HR saying to call her as soon as I could. I called her back, no answer. So I go into work. My supervisor finds me, or the project manager, and they're like, "Hey, have you talked to HR?" And I was like, "No." And at first, like, my first thought is like, "Am I getting fired?" No, I'm not getting fired. Spoiler. But they were like, "Yeah, it's just it has to do with some COVID stuff. Things been going around." And I was like, okay, maybe they're doing, like, for people who, work on the weekends and Fridays, some additional precautions, whatever. So, I tried calling her again, didn't work out. I'm wandering around, I'm getting all prepped to start working for the couple hours that I was there. And my supervisor sees me again and says, "Were you able to get into contact with HR?" I was like, "No, they didn't pick up." He goes, "Okay, well, okay, let me just explain. So somebody you may have come into contact with last week has tested positive for COVID. So we need you to basically get in contact with HR and stay there. Basically at my desk." And I go, okay. So I call
Mm-hmm.
HR, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna need you to like stay home for the next 2 weeks, and we would very much appreciate it if you would get tested for COVID."
F.
So yeah, I then left with my laptop and went to go work from home.
How's self-isolation working out for you? Hadn't you just left it?
It was going a lot better
Yeah.
until the worst thing is I think I fucking know who too, like at the job.
Mm.
And I can't wait to be like online on Monday when he's online again and just be like, asshole, did you fucking do this to me?
Oh, mate,
You and your
just
fucking friends.
mail them a stool sample and say, "There you go, mate. That's what I
I
think
swear
of
to
you."
God, if it's because they went to some fucking rally or some fucking
Oh, really?
protest, I'm gonna be livid.
Oh, that's fun. No offense, but in this context, I kind of hope so because it's funnier to know how angry you're gonna be. But not because I don't want you to be ill. I'd never wish that.
Any symptoms? Voight says in chat. No, not that I know of. Oh, none that are out of the ordinary. For
Mm.
example, I do smoke, so I have a cough that comes from smoking. That's typical. Do I have shortness of breath? No. Do I have a loss of sense of smell or taste? No. So, do I have itchy top of feet? That's an interesting symptom. No.
Is that a symptom?
Sore throat? Yes. I have allergies. And also I snore.
Do you?
I do.
Oh, I've never heard it before. Wait, wait.
Yes. Well, I don't tend to fall. I've heard you snore.
I think everyone on my Discord servers heard me snore.
It's because you occasionally will fall asleep at the computer
Yep.
or have your mic on still.
I'll just sit in VC and just fall asleep, and you'll just hear me snoring.
You just hear an occasion, just like you're like, what the
Yes.
fuck was that? Oh God, I think Meg fell asleep.
Yeah.
Oh,
At least
should we tell him?
To be fair,
How can we tell him?
when I saw Gloryham with Skog, the next day he was walking with me to the train station, and he told me about me talking during my sleep, and he mentioned that it was like having a conversation, but I kept chipping in, and they didn't know how to respond because they noticed my eyes were closed underneath all the fucking kebab boxes that I was under. His room was messy at the time. And we couldn't find the pump for this air mattress thing, which had a sleeping bag. It was funny. Yes, I don't mind though. I thought that stuff was hilarious. By the way, I'm very sorry. By the way, to you that you have to kind of go through it because it's a very with the danger that COVID-19 presents to a lot of people. Of course, I don't wish that on anyone. I still don't wish it on those that go to those protests. I am, however, going to do a little Captain Hindsight to those that do. Put my hands on my hips, maybe cross my arms and tut at them a little bit. Because we got to show them that aggression, yo. And I don't really care for the risking other people's lives just so you can. And in the UK, we've got this topping up your tan to the point where the police issued hundreds, or was it thousands, of fines yesterday and today. Because what did people do the moment it all got lifted? Essentially, they all piled onto the beaches. And the police had to go to places.
I was gonna say they all started fucking.
They probably were doing that indoors anyway if they hadn't already gotten divorced from their very failed relationships that were built entirely on sex and a complete lack of substance within them. Yes, that is a testament to your character and your integrity.
Sounds like
and your
Berlin
standards.
sex parties to me.
Right. But no, they were going to the beaches. There was no social distancing. The police had to step in, and eventually they had to send people home because people took the piss. It wasn't happening down here though. But I will be walking on the seafront tomorrow, so I will let you know if Bournemouth was that bad. I saw the pictures. Then again, we also have a whole bunch of stabbings in this country that happened this week. Let's see, you got Reading, where 3 people were killed at the Forbury Gardens. That's fan-freaking-tastic. Sarcasm sign there. And a man had to be shot dead after he stabbed people at a hotel in Glasgow. So great. But the police in that instance.
Thank God your cops are allowed to have guns.
One of the cops is in critical, in fact, because he was also stabbed. Yeah.
Oi, mate, can you put down that knife? Don't come at me, please.
If memory serves,
So I don't want to have to shoot you.
the first one, the Reading one, was treated as a terror-related crime. No, not currently treating it as terror-related, but counter-terrorism officers were called because the man arrested is thought to be Libyan. So we must jump the gun and assume the worst. And it's possible, to be fair, I might just be being a bit overly sarcastic there. It should always be treated as an act of terror. Sure, go for it. The one in Glasgow is not.
I mean, I don't know. Active terror is really weird.
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
Well, I mean, domestic terrorism has to do with politics, right? You're trying to sway politics with an act of violence.
Well, they put hate crime in there too, don't they, for domestic terrorism? Do you know what I mean?
I guess so.
No, they do. They do in this country, and that's what I don't.
Oh, they do,
yeah, I don't care for that.
You know, I think it's a little much, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, it's the UK. We'd expect. We don't have guns. We're just going to blame. It's what we do best.
Well, you know, you guys have had a lot of stabbings. Is it because of a reduced police force?
Actually, I could actually add something to that. So the former police, Metropolitan Police Chief, what was his name? Kevin Hurley. He says that police officers have actually given up trying to stop young black men carrying weapons. And he then went on to accuse Black Lives Matter of aiming to destabilize society rather than reform society. To the point when he started saying all of this, Sky News decided halfway through the interview to simply cut him off. I'm like, hang on, you brought him on to answer these questions, but he didn't give you the answers you wanted?
Yeah, no, that's you know, I would love to say I'm shocked, but I'm not anymore. I'm really not. Especially in the last year. I mean, of course, this has been going on for a while now, but in the last year, it's been so terribly obvious, and in the last 4 years, it's just been growing to this point.
Yeah.
The media is biased. I know that's like a revolutionary fucking statement.
It's definitely a trend.
And like, especially you or I discussing this is like, you know, we're preaching to the choir in our chat right now, but my God, dude, it's so brutally apparent that when I engage with anybody who thinks that Don Lemon is a credible news source, I want to cry, I want to get angry, but I can't do either of those because I know that it's just... yes, it's their fault, but it's also the fault of the media. They shouldn't be this way.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's a shame, really, because you've seen it. The constant, in the UK especially, we big up the press constantly, in the sense of, oh, they must be free to report on everything fairly. But then I see what they report on, and most of the time it's anything but. It's just, I don't know. I don't see how that's thank you, Oki Native. I thought Cressida Dick was head of the Met. She actually, I'll quickly check because I don't know if she still is or not. Because she, interestingly, Preeti Patel, called her to her office to demand an explanation. Because there were videos showing all these police cars getting destroyed was it in Brixton? The police were getting overrun to the point where they had to flee. Their cars were annihilated. The videos show the police visibly running away because Cressida Dick told them not to engage. Right? Orion.
Thank Orion for the $50 donation. Moisey Live, thank you very much for the super chat. It's very, very generous. He says, just wanted to say I enjoyed your video earlier.
Orion, that is incredibly generous. Thank you very much. That's genuinely. I'm sorry I didn't reply to that sooner. I remembered something about Cressida Dick earlier because I was considering doing a video on that on this channel.
You were distracted by Dick.
I'm always distracted by Dick. I wish you'd stop sending me pictures of it. But yeah, there was a mini riot. You know. There was you're just flexing, dabbing on them haters.
I get it from Dankula, so I send it to you.
Yeah, well, I'd rather it was just your balls, but no, you have to include the shaft. So in Brixton there was a mini riot. Police were overrun. Priti Patel demanded Cresta Dick go to her office and have a little explanation for it. Another thing to add, though, Sadiq Cunt has announced £110 million police cuts, which is weird because he has been bleating on about needing to put more money into the police for years, and he's taking even more money out of it. Which is just a bit weird, because that only came a few hours after Cresta Dick vowed to crack down on the raves, but not the protesters, even though a lot of that was illegal as well. No.
The raves?
Just those having a party, because how dare
Fuck yeah,
they?
rave, man.
I like raves. I like a good rave, actually. But yeah, Sadiq
I
Khan's...
would go to raves.
I wish I could.
But I probably wouldn't. Actually, you know what's funny? All things considered, a rave is probably, because of the amount of people who wear masks at raves, actually a pretty good safe space.
Right. Well, interesting to note, the rave that became a riot in Brixton injured over 20 police officers. But it's okay. You know, only 100 were injured during the protests that include Black Lives Matter, right? 20 during that rave, 6 with those Britain First nationalists. Who's the real bad guys? Fucking idiots.
Don't say that. They would love to tell you it's you.
Right.
Or, you know...
I don't...
How dare you think you have any semblance of liberty? I know you live in Britain, but how dare you?
I honestly, it's just a shocker. I don't know how long Cresta Dick will hold a job for at this point, but she is quite cozy with the mayor, so, I mean, the only person who could really do the damage to her is Priti Patel, and I do think that Priti Patel will absolutely hold her to the mark. But I also don't think Cresta Dick is a very good police chief. Notice here I haven't said Sadiq Khan. I wanted to prove a little point here that you can talk about two, because I do get a lot of comments in videos saying that whenever I go in on women, I only ever attack them for being in positions of power. Notice here, Priti Patel is in a much more powerful position. I don't give a fuck. She's doing a better job than Cresta Dick because she'll call it out. But she's the wrong kind of...
does not imply causation. Just because we
indeed.
comment on the fact that women are in power and doing a poor job does not mean that we hate women for being in positions of power and doing a poor job. It might just be that we criticize people who do a bad job.
Let's not forget here, Priti Patel did call out some of the protests, and then when she talks about racism in Parliament, people then went in and did the exact thing she said they would do, and deal with it, and then assign her a position based on her own race and merit because of her own experiences with racism, which to me is just sick. And Cresta Dick is just an absolute shrew, a weedy little shrew who clearly doesn't know what she's doing. But it's a nice little thing because Sadiq Khan's taking money out of them again. But then the thing is, the first thing he's done is immediately say it's because of austerity. Right? It's not because you took the money away for something else, right? Right, okay. I can't wait to see his budget so I can go and point at it and say, no, this is where you've actually put the money, you moron. Everyone loves their echo chambers. They do, and that is tragic. And yeah, right and left. UK politics is tragic with this kind of nonsense. 17 minutes into the stream. Hi, Vince. Welcome to the stream. Sorry for the distraction about UK stuff. Do you want to talk about something else?
Sure. You want to talk about this Facebook thing since I'm not so sure about it?
All right. So, Facebook have said they're going to start to label posts that they've dubbed potentially harmful because of their news value. It's basically their way of moderating the content. Because more than 90 advertisers joined a boycott of Facebook. To be fair, I didn't realize people still used it. For the most part, I've even disabled the channel page now. I don't use it.
I message you on Messenger all the time.
Yeah, but that's Messenger. I can just use the app for that on my phone. I don't have to go on Facebook to use that. Yeah. I have that on my desktop actually because you message me, and I'm normally on my computer when you do it. But they say they're going to halt Twitter, Facebook, Instagram advertising in the US at least through 2020, which actually I think it's great, because then I won't see clear and obvious bias from them, and they will then be trying to maintain a level of neutrality, right?
I actually, yeah, I would be inclined to agree with that statement. The idea that they wouldn't do advertisement, or if they're suspending advertisement through an election year, makes me think that perhaps they're worried that if things go against the left wing or progressive mentality, they want to make sure they at least have something to cling to when the the oppressive right wing government that we've had for the last 4 years in America suddenly grows a set of balls and comes cracking down, going, "Who the fuck do you think you are?"
Your country is just run by a fascist, I'm just saying.
I know.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love that.
Change out one fucking tyrannical government for the next.
Right? I still like. Okay, so I've mentioned this once before. In 2012, I put a meme, the very first post on my personal Instagram that I've since deleted. We don't talk about it. The very first post was a GIF, or not a GIF, a meme of Donald Trump, and it simply said underneath, "This man is going to be president in 2016." I posted that in 2012. I wasn't involved in politics. I just thought it was hilarious, and Karma, you're blocked because you're a fascist. But yeah, I just... It was cold. You know it was going to happen, but then when it did happen, it was like Cartman finding the funniest joke and then not being able to laugh anymore properly. And I'll be honest, I couldn't laugh that he became president. It was, in fact, the part that made me laugh the most was all the salt. Because I didn't really understand what the salt was at first, and then I saw it and was like, this is almost like... renewable energy, because all you've got to do,
feels like that sometimes.
All you got to do to drive that electric bill down, is vote for him again. Because honestly, it's just, I don't think anything can ever top that. I mean, I'm sure some Democrats will then want to push for a different type of celebrity. Some said Dwayne Johnson. That would actually, or Oprah.
Sure.
Oprah, yeah, sure, go for it. Honestly, it'd be hilarious. I don't think the Rock would do it though, because he wouldn't have enough time to work out.
Let's go with that experiment. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I don't think he'd have enough time to work out, and I've seen his ritual. He genuinely wouldn't have time to.
I think he would lose quite a bit of muscle mass, unfortunately.
He would.
And that's actually a real shame.
He would. It's very hard to masturbate to a scrawny guy. Get good chops. But it's just, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, but I don't think it would be something they could do. But with Trump, if he wins again, say if for the sake of it, sure. Although I think he will personally. It's just going to go on for another 4 more years, and it's, to me as an outsider, it's hilarious. Others say, "Oh, but it's our country," sure. But why did he win? Because of racism. That's not the answer. Why did he win? Because he's a fascist, because he's transphobic, because he's racist. Right. So, why did he actually win? You still haven't answered the question. You've used buzzwords and thought-terminating cliche, and you've not made an actual point. Come on. He won for a reason.
Come on, you know they can't do that. Because if they do, they have to admit that either A, their candidate wasn't good, or B, they have to admit that Trump won the game.
That's the point. He did. To be fair, he did actually win the game.
The Electoral College and won it.
The thing about that was an arrogant decision on the Clinton campaign part, because they should have played that game instead of going just major cities.
Yes.
He did play cities as well, but he played cities and he went to other areas that are a bit more swingy. Didn't he win?
Well,
the
biggest thing when you compare those two is honestly, and Tim Pool does remark about this occasionally. The majority of Americans honestly believed Clinton was evil. Like, not figuratively, literally. They literally thought this person was evil.
What do you think about Biden?
Biden, he's too mentally deficient to be evil.
Do you think Americans will vote
like,
for him?
He's not there enough to be a threat.
Do you think they'll vote for him more than they did Hillary, or?
Yes. But the only reason I think they'll vote for Biden more than they will Hillary is because they're not really voting for Biden. They're voting for the vice president.
That's a fair point. She was what, Secretary of State? Was that with her
she was Secretary of
Yeah.
State, but she also had been associated with, the government establishment, if you will, for even longer than that, having been First Lady as well and a
True.
senator.
True.
Um,
Both
so I mean,
Clinton and Biden are very high up on corporate America related stuff. People don't hate
they
Joe
are
Biden. That's what
very,
I meant.
what's the word? Yeah, they're establishment.
They're corporate America. They're
Yeah,
the type that'll say they'll do something and then do nothing.
right. You know what's actually very interesting? Ash, my fiance, had actually brought this up yesterday, and I thought, one, I'm so proud of you, and second, I thought, yes, you're right. Um, so we were talking about COVID, and because I had put out a video yesterday about how the COVID numbers in the U.S. exceeded our highest daily record of COVID cases since the peak in April. And I was making a point to say that, wow, it takes 3 weeks for us to find out that, we have COVID and a massive shift of infectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what happened 3 weeks ago? Oh, right, protests. Oh, right. Got it. Cool, thanks.
Oh,
Um,
before you continue, Ryan, my mum thought Clinton was a criminal. She also believes that Biden is an idiot. She likes Trump, though. Thank you very much for the
I like your mom.
thank you for another incredibly generous donation. That's very kind of you.
Why are you advertising my OnlyFans? What the fuck?
I'm trying to get likes. I want attention.
Oh, okay. I just imagine like my OnlyFans, like with my avatar, would just be like a silhouetted dick.
A silhouetted peen. A little shading around the balls.
Yeah. Just enough to pique your interest, but not enough to be explicit.
Yeah.
Um,
Lewdy.
but her comment was, let's assume for a second that this did in fact come from China, and it was intentional. Just assuming this for a moment. Well, it's really handy that it happened in 2020, election year, in which the Democrats have just been facing one of the most anti-establishment leaders of the Republican Party they've had in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't it be interesting for it to come out and find out that the Democrats actually coordinated with China to make this a thing?
Yeah.
And as funny or as conspiracy minded and far fetched as that sounds, thinking about it, it's not too far off. I mean, we've watched as professors from Harvard and universities across the nation
Mm-hmm.
be outed as having taken money from the Chinese government to subvert research or intellectual property of the United States. We have seen companies, left-wing organized companies, bend the knee to China. It's not too far off to assume or at least hypothesize that there may be a connection. While it may be a conspiracy theory by letter of definition, it's not the furthest thing that I've ever heard. It's not Illuminati level of conspiracy. It's, I think, more plausible than we would like to admit. What do you think?
Sorry, I got distracted. Can you please repeat the last part?
I was saying that it's conspiracy, yes, but it's not so far-fetched to say that it's out of the question. What do you think about
Uh,
the Democrats conspiring with China to release a virus that would make Trump's last year in presidency look awful?
I had thought that there would have been something else that, if I don't want to wear a tinfoil hat. My view was I had thought if anyone was ever going to find a way to get him or get Trump to look really bad in his last year, it would have been a housing crash or the economic crash. One of those two would have done it. Simple. You don't need a virus for it, but I do understand that it's so it feels tinfoil hatty, you know.
I know it does, but I wouldn't be so inclined to believe it if I saw Democrats saying anything that would make me believe that they were objective. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I
If I
understand.
saw anything, also, I want to point something out real quick. The United States has over 120,000 deaths to coronavirus, and I think it was 2 million infected, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it incredible that none of the highest people in the U.S. government have it?
That's an interesting point.
Isn't it incredible that folks like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi,
Hang
Donald
on.
Trump, Mike Pence,
One
Mitch
second.
McConnell.
Sorry, wait. Every villain, don't you love when evil plans come together? Donate. Evil villain is Lemo. Donates $5 to you.
Oh, thank you for the evil villain is Lemons. I appreciate the reference.
Ah, you got it. Right, cool. I actually didn't read it in
Yes,
time.
yes.
Oh, the NS. Yep, sorry. Please continue. I do apologize, but that was going to disappear otherwise.
Isn't it kind of weird? I mean, we saw Iran. Almost all of their government had contracted COVID at the start of this. Remember that?
I did. That was quite funny because
And
didn't the
even
Ayatollah,
their leader.
the Ayatollah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was funny because he was cursing everyone else for getting it, and then he got it. I thought it was funny
Yeah.
when the evangelical that featured a lot, was he a Texan evangelical or something, did those videos, condemning Satan, demanding judgment, and
Oh my god, that video is so cringe. It hurts me to watch.
it was in my first twat video, and
I know, I watched it.
Didn't he contract COVID-19 or die or something?
I think he contracted it, but I don't think he died.
No, I think he just contracted it, which I thought was hilarious in the context of his video and then that. But obviously, I wouldn't want him to get it. It's
Right.
just really funny.
But let's just keep going on this thought. Like, if that were true, if it were true that it was some kind of conspiracy, isn't it convenient that these higher ups in the democratic institution don't have it? Now, of course, one could say, well, maybe they're following the rules. Maybe they're social distancing. Maybe they're wearing masks. Well, we've seen some of Chuck Schumer's pictures of him wearing masks. We know that his mask doesn't necessarily work. But here's another thought. I was exposed to somebody who potentially had COVID. When I'm at work and I'm in any common area, I must wear a mask. So I'll let you know if I have contracted COVID, because then you can take that mask theory and shove it up your ass.
Well, that's one way.
By the way, I want to point out that viruses can spread through any mucous membrane, which, by the way, includes your eyeballs.
Do you want to read the next super chat that's just appeared?
Yes, hi. Orion, $10. Thank you very much. The Dems are pasties for the... Or patsies. I'm sorry. Pasties. That would have been funnier.
Hey.
For the CCP. They don't have a plan, but the CCP does. CCP being the Chinese Communist Party.
I was about to ask. I didn't actually
yeah,
realize.
I wouldn't doubt that. The Chinese Communist Party has attempted to reappropriate, steal, and infiltrate our systems, our intellectual property, and our overall innovations. They have been trying to steal that for decades. So that's not so far out of the question, honestly. Hello, Irate Alex.
Hey, Alex. Hope you well, mate. How strange. It didn't work.
So, I mean, yes, we can explore that conspiracy theory, but it is a curious thought that I don't like necessarily just dismissing things because they are conspiracy theories. Because remember the whole like, oh, the Clinton Arkansas thing isn't a real thing, and then Jeffrey Epstein had information on either Trump or Clinton, depending on which side you believe, and
Yeah.
he suicided himself, or he was suicided.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Saki, it wasn't a boomerang. I went to the window capture to play a video and it didn't play. Which is unfortunate because it was a very cringy video that Traps had mentioned. And I'd muted it, but it wouldn't play.
Oh, it's so bad.
I know, but I've got the audio I could play, but I can't. The video won't play itself, so I can't do that, sadly.
You want to play it now, since I'm off my conspiracy? I should just give you the image of my tinfoil hat, so that you can put it on my fucking avatar whenever I start going into conspiracies.
Let's see if I can do it this way. This one. Will that do it? Video, properties, judgment is executed.
We'll exercise judgment.
No, it's not. Window capture's not showing it, sadly.
Because we have...
That's sad. Anyway, it's a very interesting evangelical video of them absolutely fucking... Oh my god, it's like, and the Lord will get rid of the coronavirus.
I could
become demons.
Actually, there's a way I could download it. Actually, I could download the video and put it through VLC. That will do it.
Oh yeah,
I can do that. See, Orion, there's no conspiracy when it comes to the CCP. They say as much in official state media. Yes, they do actually.
Yo,
Thank
that's
you.
true. Like, honestly, the CCP will tell you everything that's a conspiracy straight up in their thing. They were like, we are attacking America. And then we were like, wait, no, don't do it. And they're like, no, we're doing it. And I'm like, wait, hold on.
Oh, here we are.
Do you see this? They were like, no, they're fine.
I've got the video up now. Do you want to see the? Should I press play on this cringy video?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Judgment right now.
Because we have...
In the name of Jesus.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Standing in the office of the prophet of God.
Yeah.
I execute judgment on you, COVID-19.
Oh, Ramash.
Executes judgment on COVID-19 traps. He executes it. I'll press play again.
I execute judgment on you, Satan.
How is this Satan's fault? He's just having a nice chill, getting fucked by Saddam.
You destroyer.
There's a lot of things that we could get into about that.
Yeah.
Killer. You get
I'm like,
out.
you know,
You
Satan's supposed to be like the guy who God
You
is,
get
like,
off this
mad at.
nation.
He sends
I
them to hell
demand
for
judgment
that.
on
But he's
you.
also supposed to punish people who do bad things, so that means that he's actually a good guy.
This pause face though. The other guy, I can't tell if he's laughing when he does it. It's very funny. Where's that? Oh no, I'm done with this. Actually, we'll go back to us.
I do enjoy the O face pause, by the way.
It's a good pause face. Yeah. Execute Order 66 on COVID-19. To be fair, it's when this guy starts saying, "I demand a cure now for COVID-19 for United States of America." I'm just
for the U.S. Fuck everyone else, right?
I just sat there. I turn my head and I think, "You fucking what, mate?"
Yeah, fuck you. All right.
You prick.
Oh man.
What do you? Okay, so this is a massive detour off the ad thing. What do you think about Facebook doing it overall, though? Do you think it's a good idea that them doing? Because this all came about because of obviously Unilever. They're the biggest one to boycott, and also there was a report, European Commission report, on Facebook's removal of hate speech, which is up. It's up by about 4% from last year, which is fantastic. Sarcasm sign needed, of course.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time. It was the hate speech thing that Facebook did.
Yeah, Facebook. There was a European Commission report that found Facebook removed 86% of hate speech last year, which is up from 82.6%. So this is what the European Commission has deemed hate speech, and that Facebook has only removed 86% of it. It's quite interesting.
Okay.
It's interesting.
Only
'Cause
86%. What's the remaining 14%?
I don't know though. I don't know what the European Commission's values are and what they consider hate speech in the first place.
Well, okay, Veritas put out a fucking video recently. I don't know if you noticed
I did
about.
not.
Okay, so Veritas put out a report that apparently some of their content moderators allow hate speech against white people flat out.
That's actually a point, because I know that Facebook, they've introduced with their ads, you can't describe people from different groups based on factors like race or immigration status as a threat, which is interesting. Wait, why did Saki get deleted? What did he say? Oh,
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 Saki, no.
oh, that's a spicy one, Saki. Orion.
Spicy meme ball.
It definitely is. I'd be interested as to how they arrived at 86%. I think they are fronting. I don't know how they derive hate speech in the first place. This is European Commission standards. I know they wanted us to adopt that within our own law. The UK has hate speech law anyway. Arguably, ours are, if you're going to have a pissing contest, ours are renowned for being fairly strict these days as they continue to add more to it. And a lot of people don't actually understand hate speech in Europe because they all speak various languages and don't know what they're voting on half the time. But I know there's a Facebook are cracking down on these labels, but I think it's one-sided. What?
Sorry, I was asking Ash to refill my whiskey.
Ah, good whamming.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I think Facebook doing it is it's a good thing with this current within like US election seasons, because yours are very blasé, very grandiose, very ostentatious, and I think charged as well, politically. It's so polarizing, and I think perhaps having that social media not be used like that is a good thing, and I hope that perhaps other sites consider doing that as well. I know Twitter, didn't they say they were going to do something like that, but they never did.
Twitter said they were going to police false information and hate speech. And then when they censored Donald Trump and people asked them, well, why do you do this? Except you don't do it for Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or any of the Democrats. They go, well, we can't police everyone.
Yeah, that's that was one of the straws that broke the camel's back and started the hashtag Twexit, where people then started creating Parler
I'm
accounts.
on Parler. Are you on Parler?
I am actually. Would you like to show your
Oh
Parler in the
shit!
chat?
Hold on, I'm going on right now. I'm gonna fucking follow you. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hold the fuck on.
I'll link my Parler in the chat if anyone's interested in following me there. I do use Twitter obviously as well because I have a bigger audience, but I am active on Parler as well. So if you're at all interested, give me a follow. I have 67 followers. Mitch has over 300 because Sargoy knows him. Ryan,
Mitch?
I think Charming Man 93. I think banning things is counterproductive. People are just changing the tags. I tend to agree. It's not productive in this. I think banning is stupid. Thank you, by the way, again for the donations. This is very generous of you, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, thank you all.
And I just honestly, it's sad to see so many people be silenced because I've seen people already complain that Parler's becoming more right wing, and I'm sat there like it's not becoming more right wing. It's just where all the voices that have been silenced on YouTube have gone, or on Twitter have gone, like Gab, except Gab became a anti-porn Christian site. Which,
yeah, that was the weirdest turn of events, by the way.
I have a Gab account. I was considering deactivating it because I'm just sort of sat back like, I don't know if I can keep using your site because you're not really a free speech platform, are you?
Well, what's even worse is that, okay, so this was a weird circumstance. So you remember Tumblr, how Tumblr shut down a whole bunch of porn accounts?
Yes.
And then there was like a mass exodus off of Tumblr to Twitter. Remember that?
I do.
Okay. It's more or less the same thing there. a company makes a decision, which I believe Tumblr is owned by Facebook now, if I remember correctly.
I think it is, yeah.
I know that Facebook basically owns social media except for Twitter and Snapchat for the most part, but
Okay.
I believe they own Tumblr and Instagram.
They only, I know about Instagram, because I do use that for
Right.
YouTube, oddly enough.
Oh, fancy.
I've had it for
Um,
years, though.
but okay, so if it was all right for people when a platform enforced certain rules to move to another place. Why is it bad? Why is it only bad when conservatives do it?
Hmm.
And the reason why is because they think conservatives fundamentally are bad people.
Yeah.
The biggest issue that we have in our political discourse part of society, the part that'll actually allow us to discuss different points of view, is because one side is willing to discuss the other as a difference of opinion. The other thinks that the other is a literal incarnation of Satan.
Yes.
And that's where we are right now. That's literally what people think of conservatives, left wingers. If you are a Trump follower, the left wing thinks that you are anti immigration in
Hmm.
all of its forms.
Yeah.
You are racist, you are sexist, you are ableist, you are transphobic, and that you hate Muslims and you hate anything that differ. Oh, and that you love big business. That's a weird collection of things to bring to conservatives. Conservatives usually were the people who wanted to keep whatever the previous iteration of things were. At least that's by definition what the conservative part means, right? Progressive meaning they're trying to push forward, they're trying to advance society by their own metrics. Conservatives want to keep that which is not broken. That's the idea. They prefer that system. Now, of course, conservatives in the past, meaning older conservatives, want to keep a older generation of governance, which is totally fair. I understand their point of view, but this is the difference between conservatives. Of course, Republicans, there is a massive difference between the two of them right now. You have the older Republicans who are more of the, the John McCain types. Basically they're the same establishment Republicans that Trump claims that he wants to drain the swamp of. And to be fair, that's actually a pretty valid statement. A lot of them are basically the same as fucking Democrats, establishment Democrats.
Yeah.
But then you have the new conservatives. These are people like myself. Libertarians often end up falling into this category, but I like to call them neoconservatives, but without um, the bad connotation, because neoconservative has a bit of a connotation with it. Um, those are like the kids who hate the fact that they are being told that they need to be ashamed that they're white, or ashamed that they made an edgy joke. The kids who want to rebel against authority. Well, right now, socially, the authority is left wing, which means that the conservatives, quote unquote, are actually progressives. I mean, it's really weird when you think about it, but right now, one of the posts that pisses me off the most is, um, being progressive is punk rock. No, punk rock was rebelling against establishment. Right now, the establishment is very left wing, which means it's actually punk rock to be conservative.
Interesting to note, I'd once heard Billy Joe Armstrong claim that, first of all, his music was punk at one point, because of things like American Idiot and some of the commentary within it, with
Fuck
regards
Green
to...
Day.
True. Some of the commentary during American Idiot, though, was quite accurate, really.
At the
And
time, absolutely.
yeah, exactly. But to be anti-establishment and then to basically shill establishment in your later, more recent music. By the way, I was, as a kid, a huge Green Day fan. I really was. I thought the music was very simple, and it was, because you can play it all within 5 seconds. It's one chord, played in several spots on the fretboard. It's just, but the lyrics also very much, they were supposedly anti-establishment, but actually it was anti-Republican establishment. And that's where they failed as punk, because if they say they're punk, let's just believe they are, because they're not, but they say they are, you fail because you didn't actually treat establishment as inherently negative. You treated a particular brand of establishment as inherently negative.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is just tragic, really, for a lot of people who claim to be punk, but they're anything but. They're posers. They are hipsters. And
That's honestly, and that pisses me off because I can't even claim that a style that I follow is punk anymore, because even that is been corrupted, right? I remember when I was in high school and I was basically a scene kid, which, if the chat doesn't know,
oh god,
it's not emo, it's not punk, it's just a whole lot of black and a bad attitude.
A lot of the scene kids that were in my uni, they dressed with a very emo style, though, in the sense of they wore skinny jeans, Converses. The hoodie was the only thing that was different. It wasn't black. It had different. Everyone had a different pattern. It was the only thing that separated them from each other. The same haircut. They walked the same way because they wore skinny jeans and they had thick thighs. They couldn't sit down properly because their trousers sagged below their bottom. It was weird.
Okay, I wasn't that guy. I didn't have my ass out.
I never did that. I had housemates that did it, and I sat and I'd be like, honestly, I could probably show you some photos of me at uni, and you could tell I was just a very generic. I wore jeans and a t-shirt unless it was winter, in which case I wore shorts. And I wore Vans because I didn't really give a shit.
Of course you wore Vans.
I needed them because when I was drunk, they helped my balance so much. Like, it was so much harder to lose balance that way.
I just turned it into a pickup line.
It's one of those things. To be fair, the only reason I had them is because Sports Direct, they didn't have any trainers that fit me properly because I got wide feet. And so Vans were the best option, and they were cheap, and I wanted to save money for booze, so I bought Vans and extra insoles, padded it out because their insoles are trash, and then got Shrek'd and probably threw up all over them all. I kind of miss them.
Nice job. Good job.
I did my bit. The Vans were not comfy back in 2006. If they are now, I'd love to own a pair, but...
No, neither were Converse, believe it or not.
I got wide feet, so I could never wear them. I could legitimately never wear a pair because my feet are... I've got great balance because my feet are fucking wide.
I have the opposite problem that you do. You have wide feet. I have very long feet.
Well, my feet are massive, but it's just one of those really weird things where they also happen to be quite wide. Which, honestly, I trip a lot, but I don't fall over. I need to learn to lift my legs up. I miss wearing pants.
I know we went off kind of on a tangent there.
That's all right.
But my point was that conservatism, is basically it's under attack by people who would like to believe that conservatism is that of their parents' generation. It's the anti-gay religious right that punk rock from the 90s and 80s was rebelling against. That's not the case anymore. The right nowadays, and I don't mean the alt-right, I mean the conservative social right, wants to talk. The greatest fucking post I've ever seen on Facebook about it is when people ask me my politics, I tell them I would love to smoke weed at my gay best friend's wedding while open carrying a firearm.
Oh, and hang on. The wedding paid with 4 Bitcoin.
Yeah, with a wedding paid for by Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's a great fucking post, and honestly, I resonate with that a lot.
It's actually
I think you should have definitely a right to defend yourself. I don't give a fuck if you're gay, bi, trans. I don't give a fuck.
it's actually a
And
quote
I would
from
love to
Dankula, by the way.
attend a funeral of my best friends,
Yeah,
celebrating their day, and also let's all smoke weed.
Yeah, Dank said that in a video. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Orion, just conservatism is not under attack. Liberalism is under attack. A few years back, and I've said this a few
Okay,
times.
that's a fair point.
A few years ago, formerly he was a commentator, now he's a social scientist doing really cool things. Mim Headroom YouTube channel, by all means go check him out. He said that when the left and right were done with each other, they'd turn on the moderates in the centre. And they did. They all just went nuts on him. But then when it was done, and basically nobody was saying they were a centrist in the first place, but once that was done, they then went back to trying to find avenues of left or right to go for, because apparently the centre doesn't exist. Which is where the attacks normally went. It was, you're not real. You don't have any politicians. There's no one like you. You're not real. Get good scrub. Go legitimize. And then back to left-right fighting. And I just sort of sat back and thought, you guys are cringe. You're only fighting because left or right. You're not fighting over anything of substance. It's just, and it became pedantic shit shows, which I found to be quite trivial, to be honest. Either an issue is correct or it's not.
No, and that's a good point. And honestly, I definitely think that what Orion says here is actually a very good point, because what he says here is the idea of liberalism, which would, if you guys followed Sargon during his whole liberalist movement, which was like a year ago now.
Is there a Parler account for that, by the way? I see it on my screen right now.
Is there?
The Liberalist, it's called. It has 464 followers, more than me. I'll link it in the chat if anyone's interested in having a look. But that is their Parler account. It just popped up as a recommended next to like McGuinness, Hopkins, Robinson.
But all things considered, I mean, what they are mentioning is true, right?
Yeah.
The idea that a person with liberalist views, meaning that which you are trying to debate with somebody over the merits of their argument, as opposed to their proposed identity, that kind of thing, that is truly what liberalism was. But unfortunately, what you have now is liberals don't exist in that sphere anymore. If you are a liberal in the liberalism context, you are not considered liberal or left-wing by the progressives who have commandeered that space.
I want to ask the chat something. The Memes of Destruction says, that's why we started, when we started the Skeptics Guild. I know nothing of this. Can you please, in the chat at some point, tell me more about it? Or tweet it to me. Parler is another site akin to that of Twitter, but it's basically where most who have been censored on Twitter have gone. I know very little of it at the moment. It actually is a far better way of presenting things, in the sense of you have more characters, you can post more than one image and link to videos. You have a lot more options, and it's quite...
You have 800 characters.
1,000, I think it is, isn't it?
Oh, fuck, yeah, you're right.
It's actually quite pretty, and I'm getting used to using it as well as Twitter. I don't use Twitter too much anyway, although the fact I managed to get to 7,000 followers is still a mystery, because I do fuck all. I legitimately don't do anything on Twitter.
I feel that.
Still very grateful, but I'm starting to use Parler a little more as well. I just need to learn. Objectivism.
Now,
ooh.
Objectivism. Now, wouldn't that be a lovely movement for our journalists to adopt?
Prerequisite to be a journalist. Can you be objective?
Here's
a picture of Trump's face. Here's a picture of Trump's face. Now write an article about it. First writer.
I mean, you're asking a lot, unfortunately.
The shade has provided a Chaplin-esque mustache to his face. He is the literal incarnation of Hitler. posted by The Independent.
Oh, shocker.
Orion, again, thank you again. You're very generous this evening. It's very kind of you. Two things. Meme skeptics were never a thing. Just because people agree with a subject does not mean they are instant friends. Just look at Thunderfoot and Sargon. Thunderfoot is an idiot. Thunderfoot is an idiot on the political stage. In that respect, he is an idiot. I will happily say it because he has proven he cannot think of things in a political way because politics is not as easy to understand for him as science. Believe it or not, it is something I can relate to actually. I genuinely can because it took me years to be able to understand a very basic premise of my own country's political system. I really need to make that video at some point.
Well, the idea that skeptics all were in this bubble together was always a mystery to me. Because,
go on.
like, even the atheist community, right, that started the quote-unquote skeptics, they were never necessarily all on the same page. Sometimes they would come to each other's defenses, but that didn't necessarily mean that they were in full agreement with one another. The situation regarding those ideas are very much in the sense, I feel this way.
Yeah.
And this is why I feel this way. Come at me, bro.
I want to say about these skeptics. So I was here in 2015 around the time of Gamergate being in its full swing, and I did videos on it. It was actually one of the things that got me inspired to really push. As many have seen, though my first video was not that at all. I talked about politics on my main channel. I went down the path of skepticism-related content because I just, and I was introduced to a lot of content creators on a Skype group called the B-List. Something I wish that still existed to this day, but honestly, I think I'm the last man standing now. Which it's not a flex, it's just time has passed. Undoomed still made one video recently, but it's absolutely bombed because he's not been around much, so he's not uploading, so people don't remember him anymore. Which is sad, really.
I remember him just because of that sexy voice he's got.
Indeed. But there were communities of sorts, but they weren't bound. And I saw the arguments within these groups, the Skype groups and the Discord servers. I saw the arguments. They didn't agree. They weren't communities. They weren't united against the common enemy. They were more... some were grifters, yes. Some were interested in making a brand, which I can understand in my situation I can relate to now. Others were definitely more interested in debunking bad ideas. And as time went by, that's something I preferred to go down because I think it's actually a great way to go forward, to be honest and simply prove something is wrong. You don't have to, because this is where other styles appeared as well, pwnage and destruction and abuse and bullying. Those were also prevalent because it's the type of content that was being made, the pwnage, the response videos. There were groups, but as myself and Mitch, CharmingMan93, Mitch is what he uses now, will tell you, there was no skeptic community, but there were channels that used avatars or presented their videos in a way that was strikingly familiar. Oozaloo was one of them until he gave up on his format and changed it more times than a nappy is changed on a baby. No offense to Oozaloo, of course, because, but he does make...
I remember when he was important.
He does good stuff still. He doesn't do it very often anymore because he's very busy with life, I assume. And that's fine.
But that's the expected progression.
Agreed. I think though there were groupings, and I think I got lumped in with the skeptics because I had an avatar wearing a suit, animal avatar.
Oh yeah, the suit skeptic was. I mean, that was the
clone,
image, wasn't it?
It was, and so as you can see, I'm at least I'm consistent. Okay, I've stayed true to it. I haven't. I've invested in what I believe is actually more marketable and interesting to people, rather than the twat behind the microphone, because that's not interesting in the slightest. And that's, you can see though over the years though, more have ditched it, not to go on camera, but simply to move on. Some have gone on camera, of course, and yes, you can see how well their channels have done. Armored Skeptic. But some have done...
Especially because I don't know who you're talking about, so that's
indeed.
kind of a testament to that thought.
Yeah, some have done really well, some have not, and it's always quite interesting to see where they go. And I just... There were some skeptics, but they weren't a community. People say they were a community, but it's only because you never knew the people involved. You just wanted to pigeonhole them, which was the whole point. Oh, you're a skeptic. So? What's next? Oh, Ryan, it is interesting how the American pugilist spirit has translated so well to online forums. This whole pugilist, I think. The whole experience recently has been like a long fight. Yeah, we pugilist then. Yeah, you're right. I think it's 1G. It's actually pugilist is for boxing. It's somebody who can fight in many styles.
Oh.
Pugilist. It's Lennox Lewis, Floyd Mayweather, pugilist. Floyd had one particular style, but it was utterly unbeatable. But yes, it's that variety aspect, and that's where a lot of the skeptics fell apart because they didn't show change. They pigeonholed themselves, much like being called a skeptic, and they didn't show any improvement. And that's where I think that's why a lot, I don't want to say failed, but they moved on because they realised it was too hard to continue. Some stuck it out and are stagnating. Some have stuck it out or they've changed, and it's really fascinating actually to watch, to see it over time. Actually, a great example actually of stagnation or people not changing would be those that do reaction videos hating on the larger eating channels, right? Those channels are nowhere near as active anymore. Not just because the cash cow has cancer, but also because they themselves realise they can't add anything more to it, and they're bored of it, so they don't know what to do with their channels. It's that you need to be able to diversify and evolve. Simple, really. And a lot of creators can't do that. I'm not hating on him at all, on Mayweather in the slightest. I was a huge fan watching his fights, because seriously, I only ever saw one person buzz him, and they were too slow to follow it up, and it was tragic. But Mosley really did hit him hard. Is there anything else we'd like to talk about this evening?
No, I think we wonderfully tangented.
I do have one last thing. It's not politics, if you want to get really pissed off about it.
Sure, go for it.
So, you're aware of Pirates of the Caribbean, aren't you?
Yes, of course.
And there was talks Johnny Depp might come back for a 6th. Was it 7th?
Yes. Yeah, I heard about that.
They're not. Instead, they're going to do a all-female spin-off of Pirates of the Caribbean with Margot Robbie starring as the lead. With Margot Robbie as the lead. And I'll tell you what, I'll even put it in our little sources so you can see it. There you go, mate. It's just
I respect her as a person, but what the fuck is she going to bring to Pirates of the Caribbean?
After the rip-roaring success of the emancipation of Harley Quinn, and of course the rip-roaring success of previous films that have done this format of all-female casts, Ocean's 8, Ghostbusters, what was that spy film with Charlize Theron, that film? What was the more recent all-female film? Oh, what was that thing? I can't remember. You know, they're so forgettable. My apologies. They've all done so well that Disney have decided to throw their weight behind it as well. Now, I should point into context here. Dead Men Tell No Tales is known as a box office disappointment, and yet it took in nearly 800 million worldwide. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just check how much did The Emancipation of Harley Quinn make again? Was it? It was barely even 10%. Was it? Oh no! It was a couple. It was a lot less than Suicide Squad. It was actually only a few hundred million, if I remember correctly.
I believe they just barely broke even.
Broke even on the budget, but not on the promotion. If you include all the additional costs, they didn't break even. Birds of Prey. How much did it make? Let's have a look. It made 201 million on a budget of 100, so they probably did break even with promotional costs.
Probably after the re-release with the new title, it probably helped.
Yeah. Orion for $5. Do you have any thoughts on Ark Warhammer surrendering to despair on gaming? No. Sadly I don't.
I don't really understand what you mean
Yeah,
because
I don't watch
look,
Arch, so I don't know.
well, I don't necessarily follow Arch as well, mostly because I'm not as much of a Warhammer aficionado as Meg, for instance. Um, yes, Memes of Destruction, Last of Us is setting sales records. Yes, minimums, and also ups and downs. Ups in how many sales it's selling, and then review bombing. Yeah, it's that good. Don't play it.
I don't care about it.
Surrendering to despair on gaming. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I can assume because the gaming industry is going in such a way that is catering to the progressive, angry left. So situations like Blizzard banning people for using offensive comments in team chat. The Last of Us 2 making a trans character and forcing you to play 10 hours of that character, even though it's so terribly, terribly a fantasy created by the producer and director, and it's so painfully obvious that it's a self-insert fantasy that it's very hard for a player to get behind. It's almost sociopathic in how it's played out. The situation in gaming is very, very troublesome. I mean, we can only look to last week's conversation on orcs and D&D to really see how far this has gone. Tabletops, video games, card games, all of which are in the crosshairs of this progressive push. And the biggest problem is gaming companies are letting it fly. Now, there are some bastions of gaming that are standing firm. Steam is one of them. Valve does not give a fuck what you think. And I am remarkably happy to say that because Steam Summer Sale started today. Haha.
Yes, I've heard
I'm
about
getting
that.
off of work for 2 weeks.
I will say to Orion, I still don't know what despair is, sadly. So I'll have to look into it. If you're here next week, ask again. I will see if I've got an opinion. I don't watch Arch, though, sadly. Not because I don't like him or anything. I am subscribed. I have looked. I am subscribed. But I don't watch much YouTube at the moment. So I haven't kept up with much that's going on with many people because I've been stuck in my own little bubble of doing my own job. So do give me a week and I'll get back to you on that. I think we're done, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is there anything you want
Do you
to
have
shill?
anything to shill this week?
I do, yes. Okay, so
No.
I'm going to shill because, well, I gave it access to his patrons first. My sister has made some Lord Bear plushes. Has a monocle and a cyber head and all that. They were going to go on his store, but it's easier for me to do it through me, and he's then going to make his own ones in the future with the pattern. His patrons have had access to it for a few hours. There's still some left, and I thought, screw it. Why don't I shill it here as well, if anyone's interested in supporting my sister, because the money made from this all goes towards that bar at the bottom of the screen you see, the new kitchen, because my sister would like to build a new kitchen by the end of the year. If we're able to raise that money, I will then do pictures before, during, and after to show its completion so you can see it. It's Archer's CA content that is the most interesting on that. CA, what does CA mean? But yes, if you're interested in supporting my sister, please consider purchasing one of these bears. Is there anything you'd like to shill, Trups?
Support Omegon's sister. She's really nice.
Thank you for the donation, by the way. That's, again, you've really made my day. That's very generous of you. Is there anything you'd like to shill?
So my shill is just that I put out a video yesterday talking about the coronavirus virus and its relation to um, the protests that went on in the United States and actually technically across the world, because Australia and the UK also felt like they needed to protest for George Floyd to, I guess, argue against American police violence. Sure. But I put out a video on it yesterday, and I was a little bit surprised at the lack of engagement. So here it is in the chat. Go take a look at that if you would be so kind. I would very much appreciate it. Thanks.
Please consider subscribing to Chops as well, as we seek to get him towards 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. If you don't, he'll release his nudes.
Oh yes, and no one wants to see that. I'm a big hairy man. And by big hairy man, I mean moderately large and yes, very hairy.
He's a thick boy.
Yep.
I've got nothing else to say then.
Yes. All right. So then, say good night, Meg.
Good night, Meg.
Good night, Meg.